How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Robert Arms. My name's Rob and I'm the host of this channel. A couple weeks ago I made a video talking about how I wanted to do some changes to this channel and focus on more practical shooting content. Well, luckily for me, the amount of training I've received so far on an official basis has been mostly in concealed carry. So I figure I'd begin with this video talking about my training with my concealed carry firearm. I wanted to go over some practical drills I did, some different scenarios that some people may not have thought about or maybe overlooked, and maybe my preferences as to how I carry, what weapon I do carry, my setup, and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and get started. So why is concealed carry so common? Well, for one, it's probably the most practical use for the average everyday American to use their firearm on a daily basis. When you go out in public, you never know when you encounter any kind of danger, and more often than not, you want to have the tactical advantage of having a concealed firearm on your person. Now, as much as I love to agree that open carrying your firearm is pretty rad, and it's becoming more and more legalized out there, the problem with that is that when you walk into a large public scene, you're letting everybody know that you're armed, and that doesn't provide any advantage, in my view, whatsoever, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. Now, I do agree that you have every right to carry your firearm any way you want because we have the right to bear arms. I mean, it says it right there in the Constitution. But the issue with that is that nowadays, that doesn't provide any advantage. A particular kind of person might be able to see that you have a firearm on your person, and if they're, planning on doing something nefarious or downright egregious, you will be the first target in their eyes, right? Like, you are clearly a threat to the individual that wants to be a threat to everyone else. So that's something to seriously consider. Another thing is that a lot of these carry pistols, like the subcompact size or pocket pistol size firearms, are really popular in the market right now, and they have a really attractive price point across the board, and it doesn't really matter what brand you look at. As a person in the firearms industry, I can definitely tell you that that is a huge focus for the market right now. A lot of people are purchasing these things. They want to be able to train and carry with a firearm that they can trust their life on, and also not expose themselves as somebody that is carrying a firearm. They need to be able to conceal it, so size does matter in this case. So about these subcompact pistols that are getting really popular in the market, a huge focus in terms of the design is mostly compactness but capacity. A lot of companies like Sig Sauer, FN, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, and Glock are kind of focusing on selling these pistols that are basically designed to be able to have as high capacity as possible while limiting itself in terms of its dimensional size. So you can conceal it while having the advantage of having many rounds to be able to use in a situation where you need that firearm. The one that I typically carry is the Sig P365. I only bought it because at the time it was convenient. I liked the price point, I liked the deal that I got on it, and I like the modularity that it came with and the feel of the grip. But there's a lot of other firearms out there that kind of offer the same thing, so there's not really a preference there as to why I bought it. Whether I thought it was better or not, I mean, that doesn't really matter in my eyes. As long as the weapon functions and does what it needs to do, that's where I draw the line. Typically, when it comes to weapons setup, I train with an optic on my pistol. Some people like to do iron sights only. That's all fine and dandy, but in terms of being able to get good, quick target acquisition, a dot definitely helps, but it is important, though, to train with iron sights initially before you take that step. Now, in terms of extra modularity, like having a laser or flashlight, those are really good tools to have, especially when you are walking late at night and you need to be able to draw quickly and be able to see your target, which is a very important aspect of concealed carry training, especially in regards to the law. Having those tools on your weapon definitely help with having that advantageous situation where you can see your target and engage quickly and effectively and stop that threat. So how exactly did I train myself using my concealed carry firearm? So I kind of believe in the whole train how you fight concept, where whatever drills you come up with in your head that you think you can effectively use in a real situation, that's kind of like what I lean on whenever it comes to doing self-training. Draw your firearm as quickly as possible and get as many shots on target accurately as quickly as possible. My setup initially for warming up, I would put my concealed carry weapon in an open carry holster on a battle belt, and I would draw and fire off a round as quickly as possible to check my reflexes and stuff. And once I get a good feel for that, then I actually do the practical concealed carry drills underneath my shirt. I carry in the appendix position typically. I know some people find that real sketchy, but I feel like personally that's the quickest way I can draw my firearm off of my waistband. The most typical drill that I did was the bill drill. I think that's a really effective drill to use when your target is directly in front of you. 6 shots on target as quickly as possible from drawing concealed is a pretty good drill to practice with. I also did a lot of emergency reload drills. I feel like that's something you definitely should consider doing when you have a concealed carry firearm, because if you say run out of ammunition, or if your weapon jams or something, or you need to reload very quickly, that's something you should absolutely practice with. I drew my spare magazine from my front pocket. I feel like in the most practical scenario, I'm not going to have some kind of a mag holder on my belt or person or whatever. Typically, if I'm going to have a spare mag, I'll probably end up having it in my pocket. So that's where I drew my magazine from. And another thing of note is that, maybe this might be a malfunction with just my magazines and my followers in my magazine, but sometimes my slide would not lock to the rear whenever I run out of ammunition. I noticed that right away whenever, I was doing the practicing, and that's another aspect of why you have to train with your equipment, because you never know when your pistol ain't going to function the way you want it to. Sometimes my slide didn't lock to the rear, and I have to spend that extra bit of time racking my slide and firing off the last round during that drill, and that costed me a little bit of time. When I was doing bill drills, I was giving myself like a 3-second par time. Now, what I read online and what I typically see online with real actual gunfights that take place is that more often than not, they often last only within 3 seconds or even less time, because you only have seconds to react to a life-threatening scenario like that. I mean, when bullets are flying, you got to react. So I gave myself within 3 seconds to be able to allow myself to be able to perform the bill drills effectively. I gave myself 5 seconds for the emergency reload drills. I feel like it should be a little shorter, but in all practicality, that's about as fast as I was able to be able to fire off my last round and then get my magazine out of my pocket and then load my firearm and rack that slide, be able to get that next shot off. Sadly, in real life, you may need to be faster than that, and I mean, that's exactly why you train. You need to know how quick you can actually do it, and that, like I said before, I'm not exactly a great shooter. I'm not exactly an expert in firearm manipulation in short amount of time. Oh, God. I am simply just training to see how quick I can do it for myself. So that's the kind of time that I gave myself, envisioning an idea of how well I can perform in such a scenario. Now, one type of drill that I practiced for was a little unorthodox, but it's something that I feel like a lot of people overlook when they're concealed carrying, which is shooting from a sitting position. Typically at the range, you don't see somebody sitting in a chair and performing a bill drill, but in reality, sometimes, when a threat is occurring in front of you, it could happen when you're sitting down. Or, like, say you're at a restaurant, or, you're in a waiting area and you got to be in a chair, right? And we've also seen people get attacked while they're sitting down. That is kind of a relatable thing that's happened recently. I'm sure you've known. So, that is a very practical scenario that I think is good to train for. So I did a few drills doing that very thing, shooting from a sitting position. It definitely felt very awkward and unorthodox, but it gave me a perspective that I know that drawing my firearm from a sitting position is going to feel weird, but if I could train and do it effectively, I can feel like I can be competent enough to be able to do that. So that is something that I looked into doing. Anyway, I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. I hope you found this video interesting or practical. If you have more expert knowledge on the subject of concealed carry training, please leave a comment in the video. Anything helps with helping anybody being able to train practically for insane scenarios that you got to react to whenever you're concealed carrying out in public. It's an important thing that a lot of people are doing nowadays, and it's awesome to be able to explore that topic with very knowledgeable people, right? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Instagram at RobertArmsOfficial for any updates regarding the channel. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Stay safe, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.